Hello, today I'll be taking you through the purposes of editing techniques, and I'll be covering three different points in this video. What the purpose of editing is, some key editing techniques and principles, and the roles, relationships, along with the way an editor is meant to communicate with his crew. As you can see, all the photos are provided by Google Images, and in each of the points there will be a link to websites where you can research the information I've given. Small side note to the right here, there's two editing programs that are Photoshop and Premiere Pro. Both of those are Adobe programs, and in my opinion, they are the most recognizable editing software that you could find probably. Premiere Pro is used for editing videos. Photoshop is mainly used for editing photos. The purpose of editing is to make a photo or video that has been captured and make it more alluring to the viewer in order to make them more invested in it. And if you're really skilled, you can make clips and pictures into different genres, and I will show an example here. I've got the movie Frozen, but it's meant to look like a horror movie.
Do you want to build a snowman?
What have you done?
It was an accident.
Your power will only grow. We'll protect her.
I don't want to hurt you.
Okay, that was just a small example, but yeah, that's it. That's an example of how, see, Disney's supposed to meant to be like happy, sort of like cheerful sort of movies, when someone could take a movie and turn it into a completely different genre with the right editing techniques. Okay. Editing started over 100 years ago, and people discovered this due to them noticing that they could put clips together in a certain order, and in order for the audience to gain a better understanding of the situation in the movie. And this can be seen in the movies The Great Train Robbery and Rescued by Rover. In later years, a man called D.W. Griffith managed to make editing emotionally significant and thematical, and inspire people all over the world to take an interest and gain skills in the art. Most editors are responsible for a few things on set, and they can be found mainly in the fast-paced work environment, working day and night to meet the deadline of the project that they are working on. Editors must have good communication skills in order to talk properly with other members of their team, like the editors and the clients, in order to communicate and gain knowledge of what they want and finish on the deadline with the highest quality result. Editing techniques are the tools to make what you want out of the craft of what you have, whilst the principles of editing are more like guidelines to follow to show how it's supposed to be done, kind of like an instruction manual of sorts. And yes, many have been done without the guidelines, but they're there to show how a professional would do it, usually to help with guidance if needed. Okay, here are 5 editing techniques along with examples of them from movies. So number 1, master the montage is a technique that shows a short progression throughout time, and the example I'm using for this is the training sequence in the movie Never Back Down, which took place over a few weeks in the movie. Number 2 is cut in one action. Cut in one action is where a long sequence has been done in one take, as I will now show from the Kingsman movie as the big fight scene. Furthermore are match cuts. Match cuts are small cutaways that make a giant leap in time in location of the scene. And here's an example from Hot Fuzz. On another note, are using cuts wisely, and this is the simplest of literally putting 2 clips together, and that's it. And whilst literally any movie could be used for this example, I decided to use the movie Birdman, which is edited to make it look like it was all done in one take, but it was taken in like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 takes if I'm not mistaken. And for the last one, the cutaway shots, is where, let's see, it's where it gives a small backstory, adding depth to the scene. And I'm using the movie Forrest Gump because the entire movie is technically an entire cutaway shot, because Forrest is sitting on a bench and he's telling a story to strangers, and then it cuts back to his past to like show you how he got up to that point, like how he got up to sitting on that bench. Principles of editing. Showing something new with each edit means that every scene in the movie must be a different take or seen differently. Shit. Alright, let's try it again. Principles of editing. Showing something new with each edit means that every scene in a movie must be a different take. And, must be a different take or seen differently, like a different view or shot size. Select what you need means take what specific scenes or photos from the memory card, as they can get full up easily and that leaves a strain in production. Building the soundtrack carefully is when the music is overtaking the dialogue so that you can't hear what the character is trying to say when the music is playing. Varying the shot size and angle. Make sure that you don't have two clips of the same thing together unless you need to use it for a jump cut. And selecting the important action is when you find specific scenes in a take and use that and discard the rest. And lastly, we're going to go into our final point in roles, relationships, and communication. In the editing department, everyone will have their own experience working with the team, and now you don't have to be the best, but also don't be the worst. So I will explain the roles of an editor or the crew, what kind of relationships you should have with the crew, and the amount of communication required. Now, the assistant editor, the role of this crew member is varied depending on which subject they chose, like sports or local news, etc. Copy editors, these people look over and correct grammar or spelling mistakes. They must also check if the info was false or true. Executive editors, they are the bosses. They hire and fire people, the overseers of assistant editors, and will also have a say on what does and doesn't get published. Managing editors, they are found in newspaper and magazine publishers and television broadcasters, and are the one that manage the everyday duties of the department that they are in. And publication assistants, these guys will typically work for a book publishing house and read manuscripts, proofread uncorrected drafts, and will answer any question without about the published product. Pardon me. Every relationship in the workplace is recommended to be professional. One of the many relationships an editor should have is with the writer/author, mainly due to the needs that they will encounter in working, and they must discuss what needs to be done in order to reach the needs that are to be met. And lastly, we have communication. Communication on set is an important asset, and we all need to discuss how we feel in our duty. If the editor isn't able to make changes due to lack of communication skills, he/she has how else will the editor know what needs are to be met? Although most communication will come in the form of emails and texts, the form of communication between members should still be as professional as possible. And that was my presentation, and I hope you have learned a lot through this entire presentation. And yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed.